Number 3, Paul Goldsmith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order. I want to hear Paul Goldsmith. Question number 3. Order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance and asks, what reports has he received on housing affordability?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, housing affordability is important for fairness and for allocation of capital in the economy. The Productivity Commission released a report on housing affordability which found that New Zealand has become increasingly unaffordable over the past decade. Real house prices almost doubled between 2001 and 2007. In particular, they found that there is almost no building of houses which are affordable for the lowest quartile of incomes of New Zealanders. The Commission found that this affects communities and puts pressures on the government's fiscal position because the government has very large subsidies to the cost of housing.
Paul Goldsmith.
To the Minister, what are some of the factors behind housing affordability issues in New Zealand?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, the Productivity Commission found that the housing affordability has been driven up, or the price of housing has been driven up by a combination of rising demand and unresponsive supply. Housing prices boomed in the 2000s, backed by large government transfers, strong population growth and favourable terms of trade, but the supply of housing has been unable to keep up with demand. We agree with the Productivity Commission's view that urban planning has played a critical role in constraining the supply of land and constraining the opportunity for higher density development within cities.
Paul Goldsmith.
To the Minister, why does the government regard the issue of housing affordability as a priority?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, if we leave the situation as we inherited it from the previous government, housing would be too expensive for young, lower income and migrant New Zealanders who would find themselves locked out of the housing market and locked into poor and low quality housing. This government has made it the first inquiry of the Productivity Commission when it was set up, and intends to follow through by working with local government and with the planning and development industry to improve housing affordability.
Dennis O'Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. How confident is the Minister in the social housing unit when the Productivity Commission report on affordable housing states, quote, although the formal objectives of the social housing unit are clear, its structure as a semi-autonomous body leaves room for unclear priorities, mixed purposes and misaligned accountabilities, close quote.
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we appreciate the advice of the Productivity Commission. The social housing unit is a very early attempt to undo the substantial mess left in social housing by the previous Labour government, where around about $5 billion worth of houses are in poor condition, the wrong size and in the wrong place, and they are not enabling the taxpayer to help those New Zealanders who need who are in serious housing need and need assistance.
The point of order, Dennis O'Rourke.
Mr. Speaker, the question was about how confident the Minister was about those issues, and I don't think he answered that question.
Well, I think that kind of question asks for an opinion, and the Minister gave his opinion. He said that the views of the Productivity Commission were very valuable to the government, and therefore they obviously take the views quite seriously. But when asking an opinion like that, there's no particular answer to that kind of question. The Honourable Annette King.
Does he appreciate the advice of the Chair of the Productivity Commission, who said recently that the government's budget for social housing aimed at making housing affordable for low-income New Zealanders is well short of the mark, doesn't meet current need, and expanding the role of social housing is at the heart of addressing affordability?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, I certainly don't agree with the last remark, because actually the heart of housing affordability is enabling all New Zealanders, not just those small minority who are in significant housing need. But with respect to the other remarks that the Commissioner has made, yeah, we broadly agree with them. I think even the member has made some useful comments herself in the last few weeks to the effect that if we want a proper allocation of capital in the economy, if we want to be more effective in the way that we assist New Zealanders in housing, we need to rethink the current models, and that's what we're doing.
Paul Goldsmith.
To the Minister, what issues is the government considering in preparing its response to the Productivity Commission's report on housing affordability?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, the government is looking at all the issues raised by the Productivity Commission, which include land supply, resource and building consenting, development contributions, liability rules, cost of building materials and industry structure. And actually to that we would add the fiscal costs to the government, which include all of the housing subsidies, the implicit subsidy in the ownership of $15 billion worth of Housing Corp assets, and the significant transfers through Working for Families and other schemes which are there partly to help New Zealand households meet the excessive cost of housing.
The Honourable Annette King.
If the Minister does agree with the Chair of the Productivity Commission, why did he cut the budget to social housing over the next 3 years?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, I would contest the Minister's view about the social housing budget being cut. We've certainly, you can put down the member's views. She can put down a question to the Minister of Housing about the detail, but in the interests of getting more assistance for more New Zealanders more efficiently out of Housing Corp, we are changing the way the money is used, which means less focus on some of the individual schemes the previous government had in place and more focus on having more larger providers of social housing.
Question number 4, Grant Robertson.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker.